Welcome back to the STRATA Originals podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of extraordinary individuals who are shifting narratives, redefining success, and making an impact in ways that truly matter. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing someone who is not just transforming lives, but awakening them. Liv Fisch is a guide, a mentor, and what she calls a practitioner of human medicine. She has an uncanny ability to see the truth in people before they even see it in themselves, helping them access their inner greatness and align with their deepest potential. She works with high-level leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers, people who have already achieved external success, but are now seeking something far greater. Inner fulfillment, alignment, and a sense of purpose that extends beyond wealth and status. Liv, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Leanne. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. It's all true. It's truth. Why don't we start with, I know we've talked before, and one of the core things that you do is practice human medicine, but there's so many different meanings of that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you define human medicine and what that means to you?
Yeah, so human medicine is essentially the ability and the skill set to be able to be someone who is heart medicine for someone else. And the only way we are able to do that is if we have the ability to be truthful with ourselves first, so that we can then really be able to be non-judgmental towards others when we're around them, and practice active listening, active love for other people. So a lot of the work that I'm doing with my clients is essentially helping them get comfortable being true with themselves and being true and honest with me as well. And I'm just giving them this opportunity for me to be witness. I'm a witness. I'm helping them witness themselves more clearly, so that they are able to go out in the world and just do the impossible. So when you are able to be truthful with yourself and do this with a lot of intentionality and a lot of attention, and you have someone there being that honest witness to that, that is when you can just go out in the world and do something pretty incredible.
And let me just say, a lot of people might say, oh, I'm brutally honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always see those things in ourselves that we're not truthful about. And for anybody concerned about how is this going to help me, Liv has a book coming out in October called The Spiritual Heartbeat, The Ultimate Requirement for Success. What was the catalyst for writing it? And what do you hope readers take away from it?
That's so fun that you asked me that question, because I actually have only told one person this answer. So I love that question. The catalyst for actually writing this book is because if you look around, the world is in desperate need of human medicine, of healers, of people who are going to decide to be helpers on this planet and to do whatever they can with the gifts they have been given to decide to be a contagious life force on this planet, and decide with, again, a lot of intentionality and intention to be a helper. And we are either harming or we're helping. We can't do both at the same time. And at the end of the day, Leanne, I want to be able to look my daughter in the eyes and say to her when she's 18, looking at me like, what the heck is going on? And I can say, hey, I get it.
Yeah.
I've been one of the helpers. And so that was truly, honestly, the catalyst for me to just step in and do what I can to be of service and to share the knowledge that I've gained over the last 20 years of being in practice with my clients, and just my own personal experience of what I've been able to learn, and see if I can help fast track some people so that they can step into the game of life here, step into the arena in any way they possibly can to truly be one of the helpers. So that's the that's the reason why I decided to sit down at my desk here and put some words down on a piece of paper here and get this book out.
Yeah, you have so much experience in so many different areas. It must have been difficult to know where to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thankfully I've had some support in writing books in the past, and people and mentors to help guide me to and teach me how to write a book that is digestible for someone else to actually read. So I tried to follow that framework. I definitely got off course. We're right now in beta testing, and this book is way too long. So I've put in way too much information, and we're going to be cutting it down. But essentially, I feel like as a writer and an author, my job is to just get it all down, and then the editors and the publishers do their best to fine tune it. But when I was sitting down to write and structure this and the themes of the book and the principles of the book, in which I call sessions, it was really about pulling together what I was talking about mostly in my coaching practice, in my work with my clients, many of which are high performers and executives and leaders and influencers. And what am I actually teaching them, right? Because everybody's coming in with their personal problem, right? Or their desire to turn whatever it is that they're wanting into a reality. And those wants and desires differ, right? But underneath all of that, these principles are actually the same. So what I'm teaching is the same. So whether they're coming to me and saying, oh, everything's going so great, but I want a better relationship with my children, or everything's going so great, but I'm not sure that I feel as connected to my team as I used to, because we really have grown in the last couple of years, or everything's been going great, but me and my wife are just not connected at all anymore. Whatever it is, okay? People are coming in with these pain points, essentially. And how we solve for these pain points is essentially the same. we get to kind of take the story out and really decide, okay, what's actually important for this person? Where are either the gaps in their knowledge, and then how can they practice the new tools we've been going over and teaching? I call like that the practice, like show up for practice. You got to get your reps in and use that so you feel that transformation happening. And then once you do that, it moves into the demonstration, the embodiment, the new behavior, the new way of being. So there's these 3 stages of implementation or change that gets to occur with this ability to take a new knowledge, go practice that, and go integrate that into the thing that's challenging. And when I'm walking people through that process, I've pulled out, when writing this book, essentially these principles that when you follow, it actually works out very well. And so time and time again, when you've practiced radical living, when you practice intuitive living, when you practice authentic living, when you practice empowered living, joyful living, divine living, you're able to essentially make it so that you're able to turn desire into success time and time again in anything that you're wanting to, whether it's within your health and your self bucket of wellness and physical health, whether it's in your relationships, or whether it's how you contribute to the world outside of yourself through work or parenthood or volunteer philanthropy, things like that. So it's really fun for me in a group setting when I'm coaching when I'm in a group coaching setting with people, because they come in, the 20 people or whatever is in the group with all of the different stories, all the different uncertainties, pain points, work they have to do, the challenges. And really by the end of the hour, we get to see, oh, we all have the same problem. And there's usually the same solution. So it's, so when we're in a group setting and I get to coach many people at the same time, what I've come to see and what the participants come to see is that they come in with their own pain points, uncertainties, challenges, places and spaces that they want something, they're desiring something. And at the end of the hour, we get to see that even though everyone has their own desires and pain points, really at the end of the day, the solution often is the same. There's only a few actual things that need to get done to be moving the needle forward. And a lot of it comes down to the opportunity to take care of ourselves in a different way, feel powerful in our day, tap into that contagious life force every day, and then be able to communicate in a loving way with others. So I've broken down in this book these principles that allow people in a very simple way to follow onto this wave that they're already really on. Everybody wants to do a good job. Everybody wants to be helpful. Everybody wants to have a good life. We all want the same things. We all want happy, healthy, wealthy. And so how do we just get to say, okay, I'm going to go do that in a way that is going to be very loving and kind to me and very loving and kind to everybody else along the way. And my hope is to share these principles with as many people as possible.
And Liv, I want to go back a little bit because I think for people to understand being a helper and spreading a message, raise the collective, maybe it would be helpful to have a little bit of an understanding of your history and how it led you to where you are.
Yeah. Let's see. How far back you want to know, Leanne?
Well, I found how you grew up interesting just because you were brought up for a time in your life by people who were seeking something outside of themselves. So,
yeah. So I've told this story in a couple of places before. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up around people who were looking for acceptance, looking for answers, looking for truth outside of themselves, as you're saying. And it was a very cultish environment. So grew up in this environment until about age 6, until my parents decided that it was not a healthy environment for us any longer. And it was a big deal that happened. I don't know if I would be where I am today without that experience. I remember very young thinking that what they were looking for, they were not going to find in this space, in the teachings, in looking for answers outside of themselves, essentially. And I don't know why I knew that at age 4 or 5, but I just had this sense of, oh, they're looking for something, they're looking for something, they're looking for something. And I always just felt like, wait, why are they doing that? It's like right here. Everything that they're looking for is right here. And so I saw as a young child people handing over their power essentially to other people. And that was really scary for me as a young child.
I bet.
Yeah, so I've had my own journey and healing from that environment and therapy and coaches and all of the things that you need to do to deal with trauma. And the space that I have come to in my upbringing is I just have a lot of gratitude now for it, because I knew something so true and deep that I think takes people a lifetime to figure out, which is, if you don't know your power and you don't own it, somebody else will. Somebody else will be like, I need that. I'll take that power, because we all have this beautiful, strong, divine power that lives inside of us. And if you don't know what that is, and you don't know you have it, and you don't own it, and you don't cultivate it, and you don't tend to that every day, somebody else will come along and take it. And I think that was a really important lesson for me to learn really early on. So I So I could, like you said, be one of the helpers to fast track people. And that is often what I'm pointing out in session with clients a lot of the time, is saying, oh, here's where you are not seeing something clearly. Here's where you are essentially discounting your power, or discounting your importance, or discounting your effect either on yourself or somebody else.
Yeah.
Whether that's through an addiction you're not looking at, or how you're affecting your loved ones, or you're saying this lie to yourself of like, oh, you know, my lack of health is only affecting me, right? Or my addiction is not so bad because it's only affecting me. But that is the biggest lie we can tell ourselves. Anytime we are betraying ourselves, it is affecting us, but it's actually affecting the collective consciousness as well. It's affecting every single person in your space. So that is part of the gift that clients allow me to do, is being that honest witness to them and being able to hold a safe space so that people can be ready to see truth, because you kind of have to want it. You have to really want truth, right?
Well, it's
and
the same.
So it's both.
Exactly. It's the same for, and I don't mean to use this example, but I mean, it's truth. Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, until people actually admit that there's a problem, then they can't acknowledge. And it's same thing for humans, that anybody, which is if we're not willing to acknowledge the lies, then we're not ready to make a change, really.
And I think that's why people hire me, really, is because people do, when they're ready, you know, the teacher appears, as they say. But the thing that is, I find so interesting is it's so there's so much freedom that comes with the vulnerability of truth. And when you stop hiding from yourself and you're able to be honest and transparent with other people. And what happens in these environments and in these sessions with people is that there's such relief. You know, you can see it on their face after like a week or something, where it's very tense. It's like a lot of masks. It's a lot of holding. It's a lot of trying to keep yourself together because you're trying to have everybody like you, you know, and want the world to match your preferences. And you need everything to match your preferences. Otherwise, there's this big reactivity happening, right? Yeah. And that takes a lot of effort, because most of the time the world is not meeting your preference, right? Like even today, like I got construction outside during this podcast. Like there was a school event before coming here. So there's a little bit of a time crunch, right? And so there's these things that are just going to happen in the day. And if we are constantly needing life to meet our preference, if we're constantly needing other people to approve of us in order to feel free, we are going to feel stuck. We're going to feel put in a box. That how can we ever then be a helper? How can we ever even find our gifts? How can we ever be out there and say, all right, here it is. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be big. And here I go. I'm going to go do this thing that's impossible, that no one's done before. No one can do quite like me. Right. And so that piece is, we have to start claiming that. We all have a responsibility to start claiming that, so that we can really affect change, so that we can really, and when I say this too, I know I do work with a lot of high wealth individuals, people with big names, and that's like an easy one to see how it could correlate. Yeah. But it doesn't matter who you are. This happens at every single level and of life. And no matter who is in my space, no matter who you are listening, it is our responsibility to step in and say, okay, what is my community? What is my world? Who did I interact with today? At Starbucks, at the dry cleaners, at the school drop-off, at whatever happened in the day, and say, was I present for that interaction? Did I even notice there was an interaction? Was I just numb to it? Was I taking? Was I like a taker in that interaction? Just give me what I need and I'm gone. Or was I deciding to say, hi, I'm connecting to you, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm elevating the energy in this room just by my presence, right? It takes a lot of awareness, and it takes a lot of intentionality, as I keep coming back to today. And so that is my mission. I mean, that is, and every single time that I'm engaging with anybody who's wanting to have any kind of service I'm providing, whether it's this new book or a workshop or a seminar or a retreat or one-on-one sessions, group sessions, there's these opportunities to say, okay, we get to find the goodness of you. You get to remember the goodness of you. You get to cultivate that, and then you get to turn that into something really beautiful for not just yourself, but the ripple effect.
Yeah.
That is what is needed.
Really, I think we talked about this before. It's really stepping into the light. Like,
yeah,
the light everywhere you go, because you can feel an energy shift in a room when you decide to be the light and be present and bring that elevation of energy into a room. You can feel it.
Absolutely.
Now, you've worked with and work with really incredibly successful individuals and elite sports people, and who, for all reasons, have made it on paper. Is there a common thread amongst them that leads them to you? Is there something that's common, or something that's happened, or something that clicks in their brain that they say, I need to speak to Liv, like seek out help?
Yeah, to seek out help. So I think that oftentimes people come to me once they've solved for the wealthy. They solved for wealthy, right? So I talked about these three categories. People are coming to me for happy, healthy, or wealthy.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people have solved for wealthy, and we live in a capitalistic society. So people are needing to take care of their families, take care of themselves, provide, achieve, do the thing out in the world that makes them feel like they have a sense of safety and security, right? And money solves for a lot. It solves for a lot of things. But unfortunately, it doesn't solve for fulfillment. It doesn't solve for a sense of purpose. It doesn't solve for a sense of confidence or worthiness or enoughness. And it's so heartbreaking, really, when you've worked your whole life, you did all the right things, you went to the right school, you studied, you found something you were good at, you met the partner, you got the kids, you have this big house, and then you bought the other house, and then you got the plane and the boat, and you got this whole beautiful life, right? And then it's like, I don't feel good. I wake up and I don't feel good. I get in an argument, I don't feel good. I walk in my day and it's fine and it's great, but it's lonely, or it's unsatisfying, or it's missing magic, it's missing texture, it's missing richness. And most of my clients come to me through referrals. So one of their friends goes from a little bit numb to shiny, and they're like, what are you doing? And I, oh, you got to talk to this woman named Liv, right? And so my name gets passed on there at that point. But I think that it's really important to recognize that we actually get to have all of the things we desire. And I think people are constantly told, like, well, lower your expectations, like your life is good, you're okay, you got most of the things you want. And that's not true. Anything that we desire, anything that we are wanting for ourselves, that is life and the divine playing with us, saying, hey, are you ready? Do you want this now? And so we have to pay attention to those desires. We get to pay attention to the inkling of a wish and say, okay, do I choose that or not? There's free will. So you can say, no, I don't need that. I'm happy here where I am. But when there's this desire to to be up to something new, to solve for a new problem, to solve for a new challenge, or to solve for a new wish or hope for yourself, it's time to step in. It's time to go, okay, who's going to help me do this? Yeah. Who can help me do this?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a space there that's fun for me to play with in my work, because all of these connect as well. So happiness, healthy, wealthy, they're actually all very connected. And oftentimes when people come to my space, they usually solves for at least one of them. And then now we get to work on the other two. So that's the space that people come to me often with that thread of a similarity.
I don't know if you can see this through your screen, but every time you start to talk about something that's kind of negative happening, your screen in the background goes out. And then when you get back, when you finish that thought, it comes back on.
Oh man. Well, when I start talking
powerful energy.
Well, hopefully the internet stays on here, because what happens is when I start talking about something I'm very excited about, the internet goes out. So we're going to just hope that I don't get too
excited.
Too excited here. We already had to pause once for the internet. So we'll just like wait here.
Now I know that you've been described as a secret weapon for high achievers, and you're on the cusp of stepping into a much more public role. And what do you think the most challenging part of that transition is?
Personally, yeah?
Yeah.
I love that question. Thank you for that, because it allows me to be vulnerable and honest with you. So thank you. There's a challenge, I think, in listening to your intuition. And the last 2 years, I was off all social media. I think I sent maybe 3 newsletters to my audience in the last two years or so. And that was intentional. Yeah. I was listening to my intuition. I was listening to my gut. It was just saying, quiet it all down and just take care of yourself and do your work and be of service and help your clients,
Yeah.
Take care of your daughter, show up for your husband, and have fun. Rest, right? So I did that, and it was great. And now my intuition is saying, okay, time to get on camera, time to connect to Leanne, time to get on a podcast, time to talk about this, time to write a book, time to do this thing. And I'm just taking one step at a time. And so even today, this is the first podcast I've done in over 2 years. And I was doing a lot of them for my first book, but that was a couple years ago now. So I think the most challenging part is just to say one step at a time, continue to listen to my intuition, and to allow it to not be about me, because none of this is about me.
See, and that's exactly what I was after, because you're such a not about me person. And that's why you follow your gut or your intuition, because it's like it's guiding you to where you need to go. And I know we've had this conversation about raising the collective. And the first image I saw when we talked about that was you on stage, Tony Robbins style, with so many people and affecting so many people at one time, which is essentially what you'll start to do with the book, but then be able to upgrade that as well to the speaking tour, because I really see there's so many people seeking answers and get it about energy and raising the collective, and they want to be part of those messengers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's
vision was so clear to me for you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for seeing that. I see it too. This is part of me when I'm in meditation or I'm on a walk in nature or on a hike by myself and in silence and stillness, these are the messages I'm getting, right? Time to get on stages, time to get on podcasts, time to be seen, time to go out there. And I can still be everybody's secret weapon if they want, but I'm also just going to hold space to do it, just amplify what I'm doing a little bit more. So I'm just starting to put the word out there and get opportunities. I'm going to be leading a retreat in Costa Rica, or helping to lead a retreat and facilitate a retreat in Costa Rica when the book comes out in October, and just starting to put things on the calendar again. A few years ago, I was doing a lot of that, right, at the pandemic. And then when we came out of the pandemic, and speaking at places like Salesforce and Google, and had all these opportunities at YouTube, and I was pretty out there. And then it was like hibernation was I called it my wintering. It was just time to get a little bit quiet and really pour into myself. And so I listened to that. And then it's spring. So here we are.
That's an amazing analogy, by the way. Yeah. I just wanted to really highlight how extraordinary you are, because your coaching sessions aren't your regular kind of coaching sessions. They're very much tapped into your intuition and downloads and how in tune you are with other energy in the universe. So can you just tell us a little bit about that? Like, you instinctually know the solution to pretty much every problem. So can you, and this is through experience. So I speak the truth, Liv. Can you just tell us how, just to give people a sense of how you work so they can understand how truly extraordinary you are?
Yeah. So I'll say that, I appreciate that. And it took me a long time to own that, and to just say, oh yeah, that's my gift. I can do that. Some people read the stars, some people read the stocks and the market, and I can read people. And even when I was in the beginning of my career 20 years ago, and I was really focused on health and coaching and high performance enhancement, more was my clientele. People would go, oh, go to Liv, she'll know what to do, right? Whether it was like something with their Achilles was weird, or their knee, or like they had vertigo, or whatever it was, they would come to me and say, okay, Liv will know what to do. And I always in the beginning, I shied away from that. I'm like, I don't want to be the one to know all the things. And it took me some time to just claim it. So now I can just be like, okay, yes, I can just read people well. I usually can see what is going to be helpful for people. And often this is really important, because I'm actually not really doing anything that's special. And I want to say this, because everyone has the ability to do this. That's really important to know. This is part of being human medicine. It's just that I've owned it and claimed it and cultivated it. And this is actually what I want to teach people how to do, because everybody can do this. So sometimes the analogy I use, so I'll say another analogy here, is that think of it like a windshield. Okay, we're all driving a car with a windshield. And sometimes what happens is, like, the windshield gets dirty. Okay, you're driving along and you betray yourself because you didn't wake up on time and you didn't get your workout in. Boom, that's like a bird shit hitting the window.
Okay.
All right. And then you start an argument with your husband because you're a little bit hungry. Boom, that's like the sap from a tree came down on the window shield. Okay. So what happens is people are driving around with really just a very dirty windshield. Okay. And the truth, though, is just on the inside. It doesn't go away. Okay. The truth of someone, the brightness of someone, the light of someone, the power of someone is always there. And what I'm doing is just wiping that down so I can see clearly what's going on. And I'm actually not wiping it down. They're wiping it down as they're moving towards honesty, as they're moving towards the truth of something. They're just wiping it down. And then as soon as it's clear enough for me, I'm like, oh, don't you see it's that? Is that it? And I view it as a partnership. It's not me dictating here as a guru or something like, this is your future. That's not what happens. It's like, oh, I saw there was an opening because we cleaned it up a little bit. And as soon as I see any part of who they actually are, I'm like, boom, there it is. Did you feel that? Did you see that? Say that again. See if that resonates. And I work with people in partnership to remember themselves again, to remember that they can see clearly, they know where they're going, they know where they've been, they can tell their story in a different way. And so that is what I'm doing. And I do have access to what I call my spirit team. So I do have my ancestors here on my left that I can feel very, very strong here. And then I do feel like I have access to divine wisdom that usually channels through this diagonal that comes in through this way. And that is helpful too, because sometimes when I'm in session with a client, I'm just intuitively supporting them through that as well. And sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. What did you say? And then I go back to the me, Olivia, and I'm like, I don't know, but thank goodness it's recording because that was just a message for you. And so I try to stay out of the way in session because there's a lot of divine wisdom that gets to come through, and it's helpful. It's just helpful. And that is part of me just tapping into the collective, tapping into the collective field. And again, everybody can do this. It's not some special thing. It's just that you have to be willing to say, I am not powerful. I can be a helper. I can step in. I can know my truth. I can let down the guard, let down the walls enough to say, I'm not always doing it right. And not everyone's going to like me. And that's okay. But I can just keep, again, putting one foot in front of the other here and doing my next best action. That's all we have control over. So that's part of the work that I'm doing that might be different than a normal coaching session. And my clients will just, send me a message and they'll be like, okay, here's the thing. Can you just do your thing? Can you do your thing? And so they're just like, okay, here's can you do your thing now? Okay, I think you have enough information, right? Can you do it? And so, there's like this shorthand that sometimes happens, but really it occurs when people are just ready to hear the truth. And sometimes I'll just, again, ask for permission. Are you ready? Are you here present for this truth? And they're like, okay, hold on. Yeah, I'm ready, because sometimes truth is really hard to hear. It's not always easy to see yourself in that way. So we do it in partnership. It's a collaboration. I'm dancing with them. They're dancing with me, and I get so much from it. It's not, oh, I'm just pouring into people. There's a reciprocity that happens that I'm learning the whole time as well. So this is not me on my high horse. I got it all figured out and I'm going to help you. It's, oh, I see myself in you and I've been there too. Here's what I think is going to be helpful. And so that's part of the process. I get to learn about myself as well, and we get to elevate together, right? That's what it's all about.
Exactly. That's what it's about. So to wrap things up, I know your book's coming out in October, but until then, if someone listening really right now feels stuck, maybe they've achieved some external success or they're on their journey, but they're kind of a little bit stuck. What's the first thing you tell them? Like, what are one or two things they can start to think about to do to try to get into their truth and get unstuck?
Yeah. Okay. I'll share this in hopes that whoever is listening to this and listen to this podcast in full, this will matter to them. Okay. But it's not a one size fits all, unfortunately, right? So there's not like one answer to that. But let's just say someone's stuck in whatever area of the happy, healthy, wealthy that we were talking about. Okay. Mm-hmm. They want to make money. They want to get healthier. They want better relationships of some kind. Okay. How am I going to do that? One of the best things you can do is to cultivate time for yourself so that you can actually start to be honest with yourself. Okay. And I know there's lots of ways and lots of books and lots of people can say, oh, you need to pour into yourself and self-care and all of that. Okay. But I'm going to tell you what that actually looks like. Maybe that can be helpful for the listener. Okay.
Yeah.
It's literally going to be somewhere between 10 minutes, if you don't have a lot of time, to like 3 hours that you want to be paying attention to this every single day. And the best thing you can do for yourself is actually learn how to and practice being very, very kind and sincere with yourself. So what you have to do is, hopefully in the morning, in that 10 minutes to 3 hours, you're going to have a window of time, depending on your life, to say, oh, here's what I'm up to right now. I am going to be kind to myself and be very truthful with myself and very sincere with myself and very honest with myself. This is what I'm up to today. And I'm going to do that here and here and here and here, whether you're doing a video journal with yourself like Beyonce does, or you're just writing it down in a journal, okay? But you are cultivating this sense that, and you can do it during your workout, you can do it during a walk, you can make it work for you.
Yeah.
But the problem with the world, Leanne, is that people are actually very unkind to themselves. And in turn, we are unkind to everything around us. We are not appreciative. We're not in gratitude. We're not in reverence at all, because we haven't cultivated that within. And so if you're stuck because you're wanting something, you're like, I got to get the thing, you're already confused. Okay. What you're looking for is actually right here. And when you start to cultivate that and you start to say, oh, that was a lie. Oh, I just lied to myself there. I just kind of was unkind there. And you are starting to decide that it's very important to be kind to you and honest with yourself. Things will start to shift and change. So I would recommend that people are spending at least 10 minutes priming their state every morning to make sure that they're telling themselves, okay, this is what I am committed to doing. And then be aware throughout the day saying, am I doing that? Just check in every hour. Am I doing that? Am I doing that? Am I doing that? And that will change your life. To be very just direct. It will change your life to be kind to yourself and sincere and honest with yourself.
And, set reminders if you have to, like Absolutely. When you're first starting to make it a habit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. These reminders, you're going to forget, and these lovely little things are right next to you, right? So you just set an alarm randomly throughout the day and it will go off and you're going to just check in. Am I doing that? No, I'm not. Okay, let me get back on track, right? Let me go ahead and put my hands on my body, hand on my heart, and say, okay, I choose kindness for me. How can I reframe that? How can I shift right now? Because we only have control over two things. We have control over our thoughts, and we have control over just the next thing we decide to do. That's it. That's all you get.
That's right.
And if you're not paying attention to that, you're not awake. You're asleep to life, and you can't co-create. You can't manifest. You can't go and get those desires when you're not in alignment with self. So that's my hope for everybody listening this far in the podcast, is you get to really decide to commit to kindness towards yourself and being sincere and honest with self, and set those reminders, set that intention in the beginning of the day, and just watch 30 days. Just watch how things decide to shift and change for you.
Which is amazing advice. It's baby steps. It's baby steps, right? And things we can do to get those small wins that can lead to bigger wins.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's been great, Liv. And I truly believe that the people who this podcast is meant for will find it and watch the whole thing. So,
yeah.
Good. And if they don't, it's their loss. Thank you so much, Liv. It's been brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me, Leanne. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.